The Holocaust killed 6 million Jews. Add in the other victims, Romani people, disabled individuals, political prisoners, LGBTQ+ people, and the Nazi regime murdered approximately 11 million people. It's one of the most documented genocides in history. We know the names: Auschwitz, Treblinka, Dachau. But here's what most people don't know. 4 other 20th century dictators killed more people than Hitler. Combined, they're responsible for over 70 million deaths. Yet most of us barely learn about them in school. Why? Because acknowledging them complicates the narrative. Because some of them were allies. Because their crimes were slower, spread over decades, easier to ignore. But the dead deserve to be counted. Let me be clear, this is not about minimizing the Holocaust. The Holocaust was unique in its industrial systematization, its explicit ideology of racial extermination, its focused intent. But the Holocaust is also not the only genocide of the 20th century, and Hitler is not the deadliest dictator in modern history. The 4 men we're covering today used different methods: forced starvation, labor camps, political purges, medical neglect. But the result was the same: tens of millions dead. And their stories have been minimized, forgotten, or politically inconvenient to remember. Let's count the dead. Dictator number 1, Mao Zedong. 40 to 80 million dead. China, 1949 to 1976. Mao Zedong becomes the leader of the People's Republic of China. By the time he dies 27 years later, he's responsible for more deaths than any individual in human history. Conservative estimates, 40 million dead. High-end estimates, 80 million. The worst period is 1958 to 1962, the Great Leap Forward. Mao wants to rapidly industrialize China. He orders farmers to abandon agriculture and produce steel in backyard furnaces. Entire villages are forced to smelt metal instead of growing food. The result? Famine. But it's not a natural famine. This is man-made. Mao's government confiscates grain from rural areas to feed cities and export abroad to prove China's success. Villagers who've grown the food are left to starve. Local officials, terrified of being labeled counter-revolutionaries, lie about harvest yields. They report massive surpluses that don't exist, so the government takes even more grain, leaving even less for farmers. People eat tree bark, grass, leather. There are documented cases of cannibalism, parents eating dead children because there's literally nothing else. Between 15 and 55 million people starve to death. Most estimates settle around 30 to 45 million. That's more than the entire population of Canada. Gone. In 4 years. Then in 1966, Mao launches the Cultural Revolution. He mobilizes students, Red Guards, to attack counter-revolutionary elements, teachers, intellectuals, anyone with bourgeois tendencies. People are beaten to death in the streets, tortured, forced to confess to imaginary crimes. Estimates for the Cultural Revolution, 500,000 to 2 million dead, with 36 million persecuted. Add it all up. Great Leap Forward, 30 to 45 million dead. Cultural Revolution, 500,000 to 2 million. Land reform executions, 2 to 5 million. Labor camps, Laogai, 20 to 25 million deaths total. Total, 40 to 80 million deaths attributable to Mao's policies. And here's the thing. Mao is still revered in China. His portrait hangs in Tiananmen Square. The Chinese government acknowledges he made mistakes, but maintains he was 70% good, 30% bad. 70% good. 40 million dead is apparently the 30%. Dictator number 2, Joseph Stalin, 20 to 25 million dead. Soviet Union, 1924 to 1953. Joseph Stalin rules the USSR for nearly 30 years. His methods are systematic, calculated, and utterly ruthless. Death toll, 20 to 25 million people. 1932 to 1933, Ukraine. Stalin wants to collectivize agriculture, force independent farmers onto state-run collective farms. Ukrainian farmers resist. Stalin's response? Starve them to submission. His government confiscates all grain from Ukraine, sets impossible quotas, sends brigades to search homes and seize hidden food, makes it illegal to leave Ukraine, trapping people in a starvation zone. Between 3 and 7 million Ukrainians starve to death. Some historians call it genocide, deliberate destruction of Ukrainian national identity. People ate their pets, then their livestock, then grass and bark. Reports of parents eating dead children to survive. The world knew. Foreign journalists reported it, but Stalin denied it was happening. The Soviet Union exported grain while Ukrainians starved. 1936 to 1938, the Great Purge. Stalin becomes paranoid about threats to his power, so he purges the Communist Party, the military, intellectuals, anyone who might challenge him. Show trials are held, confessions are extracted through torture, executions follow. Old Bolsheviks who helped create the Soviet Union are tried, convicted, and shot. Military commanders are executed on the eve of World War II, crippling the Red Army. Estimates, 600,000 to 1.2 million executed during the Great Purge alone. But that's just the executions. Millions more are sent to gulags, forced labor camps in Siberia. The Gulag system operates from 1930 to 1953. At its peak, it holds 2.5 million prisoners. Conditions are designed to kill. Forced labor in extreme cold, minimal food, no medical care, brutal treatment. Mining, logging, building railroads in temperatures that drop to minus 50 degrees Celsius. Estimates suggest 1.5 to 1.7 million died in the gulags. Millions more were sent there and survived, but with permanent damage. Added up, Holodomor, 3 to 7 million. Great Purge, 600,000 to 1.2 million. Gulag deaths, 1.5 to 1.7 million. Deportations and ethnic cleansing, 1 to 2 million. Other political killings, 4 to 6 million. World War II policies, blocking evacuations, penal battalions, 7 to 10 million. Total, 20 to 25 million deaths. And yet, Stalin is still admired by some in Russia. Polls show 50 to 70% of Russians view him favorably. Why? Because he won World War II, because he industrialized the USSR, because he made the Soviet Union a superpower. 20 million deaths is the price of progress, apparently. Dictator number 3, King Leopold II of Belgium, 10 to 15 million dead. Belgian Congo, 1885 to 1908. You've heard the story if you watched our Brutal Kings video, but Leopold deserves to be on this list too. Death toll, 10 to 15 million Congolese people. Leopold doesn't rule Congo as a Belgian colony. It's his personal property, the Congo Free State, his private kingdom. And he wants rubber. The Industrial Revolution created massive demand for rubber, for tires, hoses, electrical insulation, and Congo has rubber trees. So, Leopold creates a system of forced labor. Villages are given rubber quotas. If they don't meet them, punishment is brutal. Hands are cut off, not just as punishment, but as proof. Soldiers have to present a severed hand for every bullet used to prove they didn't waste ammunition. Baskets of smoked human hands become currency in Leopold's Congo. Villages that resist are burnt. Women and children are held hostage until men deliver rubber. If quotas aren't met, hostages are killed. Starvation is used as a weapon. Men are forced to harvest rubber instead of farming, so their families starve. When Leopold takes control in 1885, Congo has an estimated 20 to 30 million people. By 1908, when international pressure forces him to hand Congo over to the Belgian government, the population is 10 to 15 million. Half the population, gone. Some died from violence, shootings, beatings, mutilations. Others from starvation caused by forced labor. Millions more from disease that spread in brutal conditions. And Leopold? He ran a propaganda campaign portraying himself as a humanitarian, civilizing Africa. He built museums and monuments in Belgium with Congo's wealth. He was celebrated as a philanthropist. Meanwhile, he was killing 10 million people. He died wealthy and respected in 1909. Belgium kept most of Congo's wealth. The Congolese got nothing. Belgium didn't formally apologize until 2020. 10 million dead, over a century before an apology. No consequences. No reparations worth the name. Dictator number 4, Hideki Tojo and Imperial Japan, 5 to 10 million dead. Asia Pacific, 1937 to 1945. General Hideki Tojo becomes Prime Minister of Japan in 1941, but the atrocities began earlier in 1937 with Japan's invasion of China. Death toll attributable to Japanese imperialism, 5 to 10 million civilians and prisoners of war. December 1937, Nanjing, China. Japanese forces capture the city. What follows is 6 weeks of systematic atrocity. Mass executions, rape, looting, civilians buried alive, babies bayoneted, beheading contests held by Japanese officers to see who could kill more Chinese civilians. The Yangtze River ran red with blood. Estimates: 200,000 to 300,000 Chinese civilians and disarmed soldiers killed in 6 weeks. In Manchuria, Japan creates Unit 731, a covert biological and chemical warfare research unit. They conduct experiments on living humans, vivisections performed without anesthesia, deliberate infection with plague, cholera, and other diseases, testing the effects of frostbite, pressure, and burns. Victims: Chinese civilians, Allied POWs, Koreans, Russians, at least 10,000 killed in documented experiments, likely many more. And when Japan surrendered, the US granted immunity to Unit 731 scientists in exchange for their research data. They were never prosecuted.
Japan uses millions of Asians as forced laborers, building railways, mining, factory work. Conditions are brutal. The Burma Railway, the Death Railway, kills over 100,000 laborers and POWs through overwork, starvation, and disease. Between 200,000 and 400,000 women, mostly Korean, Chinese, Filipino, Indonesian, are forced into sexual slavery as comfort women for Japanese soldiers. Many don't survive. Those who do are traumatized for life. Add it up. Nanjing Massacre, 200 to 300,000. Unit 731 documented deaths, 10,000 plus. Forced labor deaths, 2 to 4 million. Comfort women deaths, tens of thousands. Other massacres across China and Southeast Asia, 3 to 5 million. Total, 5 to 10 million civilians killed by Japanese imperial forces. And here's the worst part. Japan still downplays this. School textbooks minimize atrocities. Conservative politicians visit Yasukuni Shrine, which honors war criminals alongside war dead. Former prime ministers have denied or minimized the rape of Nanking and the comfort women system. Imagine if Germany denied the Holocaust. That's what Japan does with its World War II crimes. Survivors are still fighting for acknowledgement, for apologies, for justice. Most die waiting. 4 dictators, 4 different ideologies, 4 different methods. But the result is the same. Over 70 million dead. Mao Zedong, 40 to 80 million through forced starvation, political purges, and labor camps. Joseph Stalin, 20 to 25 million through manufactured famine, gulags, and systematic terror. King Leopold II, 10 to 15 million through slavery, mutilation, and colonial exploitation. Hideki Tojo in Imperial Japan, 5 to 10 million through war crimes, biological experiments, and brutal occupation. Total, 75 to 130 million deaths, depending on which estimates you use. That's more than the entire population of Germany, more than the populations of France and the United Kingdom combined. Gone. So why don't we learn about them as much as we learned about Hitler and the Holocaust? Some answers. Mao, China is a major world power and economic partner. Criticizing Mao complicates diplomacy and trade. Stalin, he was our ally in World War II against Hitler. Acknowledging his crimes complicates the good versus evil narrative of the war. Leopold, he was European and a king. Acknowledging his genocide forces Europe, and Belgium specifically, to confront its colonial legacy. That's uncomfortable. Tojo, Japan is a key US ally in Asia. Pushing too hard on World War II crimes complicates geopolitics and regional security. In short, politics and convenience. It's easier to focus on one monster than to acknowledge that the 20th century produced many monsters. But here's why it matters. First, the victims deserve to be remembered. Ukrainian farmers, Chinese peasants, Congolese villagers, Korean comfort women. Their deaths aren't less important just because they're politically inconvenient. Second, understanding these genocides helps us recognize warning signs: authoritarianism, scapegoating, dehumanization, concentration of power. These patterns repeat across time and ideology. Third, if we only remember some genocides and not others, we're saying some lives matter more than others. That's morally wrong. The Holocaust was unique in its industrial systematization and explicit racial ideology. It should be remembered, studied, and taught. But it's not the only genocide of the 20th century. And Hitler isn't the deadliest dictator in modern history. 70 million people died under these four regimes. They deserve to be counted too. Never again means never again for anyone. Not just for some, for everyone. This is history they don't teach enough, but it's history we need to know. If you want more forgotten histories, from resistance movements to colonial crimes to the uncomfortable truths about power, subscribe to the Erased Archives. We uncovered the stories they tried to hide.